I'm Guy Kestevan, the Tester Man, and today I'm wearing an XC helmet in the woods and moors because it's all about the XC, baby, with the biggest disruptor to hit the World Cup XCO racing scene in living memory. The Rockrider 940 S Limited, ridden by the Rockrider Ford racing team. So can the French hypermarket really compete with the hyper brands of cutting edge XC? And how much of a bargain is this sub £6,000 fully spec'd World Cup race bike? Well, before we get into the testing, if you could be so kind as to press that subscribe button, and if you're watching for free, give a big thanks to my Patreon subscribers, because those are the guys who pay every month and they get ad-free, exclusive and early edits, but they're the reason I can continue posting these reviews online for you to watch for free. And also big up to my industry sponsors as well, who I've listed now. But frankly, that's enough of trying to talk one-handed, riding up here. But that tells you a lot about the capabilities of this bike, which is going to be what the rest of this video is like about. Whew. Okay, so I'm going to do a full tech talk round on this bike in the relative warmth of the workshop. So that's when we'll get up close and personal with all the spec and frame tech details. But as a quick overview to inform this ride, this is the limited version of the 940S. So 940S you can buy already, mid-range SRAM build, same frame, same SID, lockout grip shock setup, 120mm treble, 20-90 wheels, both ends unsurprisingly, but a more affordable, more recreational, more versatile spec than this limited. You need to stop. And the most obvious thing about that limited pro spec is that you get a full negative rise FSA XC cockpit with matching flat bar. And if you're thinking this puts me in a similar position to a gravel bike, it's actually so extreme, it feels more like riding my gravel bike in the drops. And that's because those XC guys just love to get their asses as high as their heart rate and their wattage, but keep their hands down for climate control. But the geometry underneath is actually impressively trail bike familiar. So 480mm reach, 66.5 degree head angle, 75.8 degree C angle. As I've already said, you've got 120mm travel, both ends. And that's what the bike's designed around as well. It's not a 100mm bike to be stretched out swamper style. It's been birthed from the get-go as a 120mm speed bike. And the whole development process, I had an interesting chat with the design team from Rockrider, because I've been riding this bike a while. And they actually work quite closely with their Van Rysel road bike colleagues on the blend of unidirectional monocoque and then some 3K cross ply, so that kind of classic cross hat carbon fibre. But also, they said, they worked on the aerodynamics as well. So again, that's something that low ride position is going to really boost too. But as you can see, it's holding a really good line down this road, high speed, attack on the Death Star descent. So stability, really impressive so far. And while this bike is designed for hard and fast XCO circuit racing, obviously those same lightweight, efficient, fast rolling advantages apply to getting out on big, epic, old school XC rides as well. So unless your other bike you ride a lot is a vintage time trial machine, I definitely suggest changing the bars. But I'm certainly not gonna have a dig at Decathlon and Rockrider for speccing a bar like this, because you know it's perfect for the people these bikes are aimed at. The proper Euro racing crowd and South American, and all the people who get fully skin suited up in their thousands to smash out the miles as fast as possible. However, I would say speccing a Di2 specific bar with holes in the front that make a comedy whistling noise in the wind is a bit of a move on a bike that's running full SRAM axis wireless. And there are some other pro spec style choices that are a bit odd too, like these TRP slate brakes, which are normally the choice to save money on a bottom end build rather than put on the bars of a top end build. And couldn't even find much info on them on the web. And then you've got a very French spec in terms of the wheel set with these Mavic Crossmax XLRs. And again, I checked them out on the web because Mavic are on a comeback, but they've not been around for a bit. I was thinking, why have they gone the XLRs? Quite a chunky sort of trail wheel. Turns out they're only 60 grams heavier than the SLRs. That's not a bad choice, to be fair. And then you've got Hutchinson skeleton rear and Kraken front, proper nearly slick racing tyres, which are struggling a bit on this. Oh, there we go, proper wheel spin on this slightly damp grass. So conditions like this, maybe they should have put that Tundra on. Sorry, very niche Hutchinson tyre joke there. But again, this is a pure XC bike. It's pure XC kit on it, which is also why you get full triple mode twist lock lockout for the SID suspension, front and rear on that side of the bars. So you've got open, pedal and lock simultaneously, front and rear. But even in open, this is a pretty efficient bike. Weighs in 11.3 kilos overall without pedals, so this large. And then the suspension kinematic gives an anti-squat that ranges between 118 and 90.5. And it sits at sag at 113%. So it's a naturally efficient bike with a bit of extension under power, even with this SID Lux shock fully open. And when you watch the talk round, you'll see a lot of the carbon in that 1670 gram frame is put in around the BB and the chainstays. So it's proper stiff when it comes to getting the power down. And if you've got the legs, the acceleration of this bike through the combination of efficiency and low weight is absolutely obscene. And probably goes without saying, like most bikes in this category, it's running a flex stay system at the back, which nearly always gives sort of tauter, springier, more efficient vibe. Anyway, and the profiling on this Rockrider is pretty dramatic too. So the flex section is higher up on the stays than most bikes. Certainly something like a Cannondale Scalpel. And that'll change the way it feels slightly too. And I'm guessing, from how it feels at the moment, it makes it a little more settled under power, not quite as fluid, but still getting enough movement for reasonable climbing traction over roots and rocks. So definitely an advantage over a hardtail, even on long climbs, as long as there's a bit of tech to tackle on the way up. And like I say, well, it's definitely prioritised for punching up climbs as fast as inhumanly possible. Those angles, even with my hands down by my knees, and a super short reverb axis dropper post that only just gets the saddle out of the way. This is properly fun to push on descents with. And once you start hitting stuff, that suspension feels a bit tight-lipped, nutty, and kind of, well, like it's got to stick up its arse. Opens up surprisingly well to let you carry speed through the bigger, whoa, opposite lock on the Kraken there. We really do not want to sink into this marsh, not in these conditions. Come on, anti-squat, become anti-sink. Yes! I mean, these tires are listed as a 2.3, but they're only actually 55mm wide, so they're only just a 2.2. So definitely XC rubber rather than everything big, fat and floated, but they are pretty well protected. It's a bit of a risk saying that, because this is a fairly rocky stretch of moor, but again, with that extra travel, just shows how much XC bikes have changed. I mean, relatively recently, I'd say last 5 years or so, that the Scott Spark, with its trail angles and more trail suspension feel, has stopped being the outlier. And the fact that Nino was pretty much unstoppable on it has informed kind of choices of other racers and other race bike designers into creating far more capable bikes that are still super quick. So yeah, definitely feel like I'm more on the skin of my teeth than Ryan probably is on his Spectral up front. Definitely some twanging around going on, bit sliver at the back end, but actually, in the grand scheme of things, not too bad at all, and reasonably good traction up front as well. It's the 35mm leg stick, not the 32mm leg SL, so there's some decent tracking there, and for such a light frame it seems like the Rockrider Van Ryder team have managed to keep some decent stiffness in there. Ha. Ha. And then T-type axis transmission means accurate, if slightly slow shifts, even under max power. And it's the, oh no, oh, I'm glad that was frozen. And it's the full ultralight top spec XX SL version of T-type too, so hollow carbon crank arms, carbon jockey wheel cage. The only thing that's really missing as a pure race bike is a power meter. Whoa, as I say, still get the traction down, so the bigger obstacle it comes to climbing on this bike at the moment is that really low sun. But again, that's where little crux moves like that at 75.8 degree seat angle at low bar position. Come on guys, keep it going. Yes, make it an absolutely stellar technical climber. And the suspension, like I say, has just enough movement in there to keep you rolling up over blocks and lumps that would trip you up on a hardtail. Yes, Rockrider, riding the rocks, up on blubber houses more. Although that double pedal strike that unseated me then made me remember that I need to tell you, bottom bracket is relatively low for an XC bike, so 328mm, 42mm drop. So be a bit careful over rocks and steps like that, because those rubber crank end boots are only going to provide so much protection unless super light hollow carbon crank arms. But whew, when it comes to being light enough to make relatively light worker climbs, even with empty legs, this 940S Limited definitely got it going on. And while I said it's almost World Cup Pro Spec, one thing that doesn't carry over from the team bikes is the Manitou suspension. All the team riders on the latest version of the R7 and don't even know what the rear shock's called. But that's team bike spec, whereas this bike is top of the range RockShox SID. But you know, I've not ridden the Manitous in the lightweight fork. I've just been riding the Matic a lot, and that's really impressed me. But certainly no complaints about this SID combo for what this bike's designed for, and that is pretty much pure XC speed, especially in this top of the range version. But having said that, it's modern XC speed, so you are getting properly capable trail geometry and suspension that really moves with the terrain when it needs to, and it's certainly not moving unnecessarily. This is not a plush play bike, but you've still got relatively low 20% progression, so you're getting full travel way more easily than something like that Pinarello Dogma I tested earlier this year. You know, very similar in a lot of ways in terms of extreme bar position and properly focused XC vibes, but the suspension on that bike barely moved, even with a ton of sag and deliberate hammer slams. I was struggling to get half the travel out of it, whereas this Rockrider, I'm getting easily the appropriate amount of travel out of it when I need. And then there's the biggest advantage of this bike, which is the price, because it's coming to you by Decathlon, and they've got some serious buying power. This whole bike, planned retail price is a quid under 6k for a genuinely World Cup ready XC bike. And if you get the less fancy spec S, that's $3,999, and it certainly doesn't look a cheap bike either. I mean, obviously I'll go into details in the tech talk, but there's some really neat machining around the micro linkage that drives that rear shock, and that has to put this Rockrider right up there at the near the top, if not absolutely top, in the privateer bargain race bike rankings. And the fact it covers ground so quickly, and the bar position, its aerodynamics and tyre choice also makes it a brilliant bike packing stroke angry gravel choice, because it's not that much heavier than a gravel bike with suspension for a whole lot more travel, comfort and control. So there you go, Decathlon Rockrider 940 S Limited. A serious amount of Focus XC speed for comparatively little cash. But make sure you click on that Tech Talk Round link at the end of the video to get a full lowdown on the spec and frame details that really make this bike stand out for the money, and also some of the oddities that have crept in along the way.